What the fuck is this shit? I thought to myself as I opened up the present. But out loud I said, "Oh wow, thanks Grandpa." My grandfather pushed his glasses up to the bridge of his nose.
It's a ham radio. I used to have one when I was younger. I got 100-mile range, so you can talk to people all the way out in Fairview. Real conversations, not that text message or email you all use these days. I'll even let you use my old license and call sign.
I thought to myself, yeah, I'm never going to do any of that. Sounds great, Grandpa.
Let's set it up together.
He spent 2 hours setting it up, showing me how to operate it, and telling me stories about the other hams he had met over the years. He flipped it on and got in contact with some gruff-sounding dude from Fairview, and they had a lively discussion about the FCC and how they were oppressing their constitutional rights. After he finally left, I went out and caught a movie with my friend Jeremy, got some pancakes at IHOP, and turned in a bit early. My birthday had been mediocre, like always. I have this bad habit of drinking soda before bed, and as usual I ended up staring at the ceiling wide awake. I browsed Reddit for a while, but you can only see so many cat pictures before they start looking the same. I flicked on the ham radio and fiddled around with the tuner. Other than the police band, the air traffic tower, and some guy ranting about the Federal Reserve, it was quiet. I sighed, lied back in bed, and started to doze off. That's when I heard it. At first I thought I was imagining it. I was in that half-awake, half-asleep state, where your thoughts start to play tricks on you. I thought maybe I had started dreaming before I was fully asleep, and had hallucinated a sound like a voice calling through static. I listened for a moment. Nothing. It was just a dream. I turned over on my side and closed my eyes. I snapped back awake. There it was again, for certain this time. A voice was calling out, as if from a great distance. It was coming from the radio. I turned the volume up as far as it would go, but I could still hear only the faintest sound. It was like someone was calling from the bottom of a well. I adjusted the tuner for better reception, but it didn't help. I picked up the microphone and spoke into it. "Hello?" The voice stopped. There was a long moment of silence, then a voice called out again. It was more clear this time.
Hello? Hello?
"Hello? Can you hear me?" I suddenly felt very stupid. It was probably just another weirdo survivalist out in the woods who wanted to babble about EMP blasts and the gold standard or some stupid shit. Still, there was something in this voice, an urgency that was hard to ignore. There was a fluctuation in the static, and the voice came in again. He said something else, and what I assumed was German. "I'm sorry, I can't understand you. I only speak English." He spoke again, and I could hear how thick his accent was.
Please, I ask you, when are you?
"Where am I? I'm in Chester, about 40 miles outside Fairview." The static started to overtake the voice again.
No, when are you? What time? What year?
I stared at the radio. So this was one of those ham weirdos my grandfather was talking about. I shook my head and chuckled. It's 2017, dude." There was an excited barrage of German that turned desperate when the static started drowning him out.
I must ask you. Please, wait.
Then there was nothing. I set the microphone down. Yay, another outlet for creepers to say creepy shit. We sure don't have enough of those out in the world. I switched the radio off and went to sleep.
What the fuck is that shit?
I rolled my eyes. It's a ham radio. My grandpa got it for my birthday.
That's hilarious. Does it work?
Yeah, it has a 100-mile range. The police band is sort of interesting, but other than that, it's just a bunch of survivalists and conspiracy nuts.
Oh, that's awesome. We should pretend we're on the siege during a zombie attack. Like, do some War of the Worlds shit with this thing.
I don't know, man. It's just a bunch of weirdos on there. Like the other day, I was listening to it and this one guy, Jeremy switched the radio on, and I immediately heard a frantic voice with a German accent calling out, "That guy! He's a fucking psycho!"
Dude, sweet. I love talking to psychos.
Jeremy picked up the microphone.
Hello?
The voice responded, sounding overjoyed.
Please do not go. I do many fixes to machine. Transmission is very much better.
Jeremy turned to me and laughed.
Dude, you've got fucking Bruno on your radio.
He turned back and spoke into the microphone.
Ja, das ist gut. Much sound. Bravo.
Sprechen Sie Deutsch?
I've had a few semesters, yeah.
They both spoke back and forth in German for a bit, until I got impatient and couldn't take it anymore. "Dude, what are you saying?" Jeremy sat back and shook his head.
This guy's a piece of work. I asked him where he's located, and he said, long ago, many years in your past.
When I talked to him, he wanted to know what year it was.
He's playing a prank. He probably goes on here, pretends to be a time traveler to troll the survivalists, and then puts the recordings up on YouTube. It's actually pretty brilliant, if you ask me.
Ask him how he's communicating from the past. Jeremy spoke into the microphone, and there was an excited flood of German on the other end. What's he saying?
I have no fucking idea.
I thought you spoke German.
Yeah, up to level 3. If he was describing the animals he was seeing on a safari, I could maybe follow him. But he's talking about like particle tunnels or chaotic duality waves or something. I don't think I could understand him even if I was fluent.
The voice on the radio sighed and took a long pause. Then, with heaviness in his tone, he said,
Please, tell me about your world.
I looked at Jeremy. We should switch it off. Jeremy looked disappointed.
Why?
You said so yourself. He's just fucking with us.
So? He's doing a great job of it. Don't be such a downer. This is the most interesting conversation I've had in a while. So, I say fuck it. Let's play Time Travelers.
We told him about our future. We described airplanes, self-driving cars, space stations, and microchips. We tried to describe a smartphone, which was difficult to do in the voice's shitty English and Jeremy's shitty German. He was fascinated by the internet, awestruck by the moon landing. Jeremy spent a weird amount of time talking about his Vitamix. All through it, the voice kept repeating,
Beautiful. So beautiful.
Okay, enough about us, mein Herr. Your turn. Tell us about your world.
There was a long silence.
My world is very dark. Bad things happening. I do not know how we will escape the shadow.
Jeremy glanced at me.
This guy is a great improviser.
Please, my friends, I have question. It is very important. I must ask you.
Sure, man. Go ahead.
The voice asked something in German. Jeremy frowned. Suddenly there was a noise like breaking glass from the radio. The voice gasped, and there were other voices, angry voices, clamoring and shouting. It sounded like there was a crowd in the room, and they were wreaking havoc, loud bangs and thuds, like furniture being turned over. The voices grew louder and louder. There was a tremendous crash. Then, silence. I looked over at Jeremy. What the fuck happened? He shook his head.
I don't know. Other people were there. They were saying dog, ruthless dog over and over again. Sounded like they smashed the place up.
I fiddled around with the tuner, but there was no sign of the voice. Jeremy and I sat quiet for a moment. I looked at him. What did he ask you? Jeremy stared at the radio.
He said, can they be stopped?
Too much soda again. Another sleepless night. I counted the cracks in the ceiling, over and over. My eyes began to feel heavy at last. A burst of static from the radio made my heart jump. I shot upright in bed and looked over. The static faded, and the voice faded in. He was speaking in German, quite softly. Anger flared in my chest. I was sick of this, sick of him and his stupid pranks. I wanted to smash that goddamn radio to pieces. I grabbed the microphone and shouted, "For fuck's sake, leave me alone. I don't care about your stupid fucking time travel. Just stop bothering me." The voice just spoke over me, like he couldn't hear me at all. His voice was shaky and quiet. I couldn't understand what he was saying, but I got a great feeling of sadness in his tone. I grabbed my phone and opened the voice recorder. I sat there listening and recording until he was done speaking.
Meine Freunde, ich weiß nicht, ob ihr mich hören könnt. Ich weiß nicht, ob ihr mich überhaupt hören konntet oder ob ich mir das ganz eingebildet habe. Aber ich hoffe, dass ihr da draußen seid. Die Maschine hat einen kritischen Schaden erlitten. Vielleicht könnte sie mit einem großen Aufwand repariert werden, aber ich bezweifle, dass wir sowohl die Ressourcen als auch die Zeit dafür haben. Ich bin tief traurig, dass wir nicht weiter miteinander reden konnten. Es gibt so viele Fragen, die ich euch stellen wollte. So viel mehr, dass ich über eure Welt lernen wollte. Aber bitte seid gewiss darüber, in der kurzen Zeit, in der wir geredet haben, einem ermüdeten Mann einen Grund zum Leben gegeben habt. Ich weiß bereits, dass dieser Wahnsinn, welches mein Land erfasst hat, nicht mehr aufgehalten werden kann. Ich sag meinem Sohn, dass er weiterhin stark bleiben soll. Ich erzähle ihm, dass wir als Menschen Jahrtausende lang überlebt haben und dass, wenn wir schon stark genug waren, die Pyramiden zu errichten, dann sind wir auch stark genug, den Widerstand gegen grunzende Affen in Marschstiefeln aufrechtzuerhalten. Aber er weiß, dass ich auch Angst habe. Wir marschieren vorwärts in einem Albtraum, welcher eine schreckliche Wirkung auf uns nehmen wird. Ich weiß nicht, wann das alles hier aufhören wird. Das einzige Ding, an welches ich mich ranklammern kann, ist, dass unsere Welt irgendwie zu eurer Welt leiten wird. Ich denke an eure Welt und ich spüre etwas, was ich in Jahren nicht mehr gespürt habe. Ein Gefühl, welches so gut wie unbekannt zu den Menschen meiner Zeit ist. Ich spüre Hoffnung. In einer Welt wie eurer, eine Welt voll mit erstaunlichen Erfindungen und Fortschritt, was für einen Sinn könnte Krieg in solch einer Welt haben? Was für einen Grund gäbe es für Hunger? Die Toleranz für Ungerechtigkeit. Tief in meinem Herzen weiß ich, dass ihr die Probleme, die unsere Spezies geplagt haben, beseitigt habt und eine Welt mit dauerhaftem Frieden und Einigkeit erschaffen habt. Ich weiß nicht, wie eine solch grausame Welt aus ihrer Dunkelheit überhaupt herausschreiten könnte. Aber ich hoffe, dass die Zukunft so schön ist. Ich hoffe, ihr habt eine Welt erbaut, die wir nicht erbauen konnten. Ich hoffe, ihr habt von euren Fehlern gelernt. Ich hoffe, ihr behandelt einander mit der Würde und Respekt, die das Geburtsrecht jedes Menschen ist. Ich hoffe, ihr habt das Wort hassen vergessen. Ich hoffe, dass alles anders ist. Lebt wohl, meine Freunde, von den Schatten. Dr. Albert Bachmann, Frankfurt, Deutschland, 12. November 1938.
I sat in silence for a few minutes to make sure nothing else was coming through. Then I switched the radio off. I sent the audio file to Jeremy with an explanation of what happened. I asked him to translate it. The next day at school, he handed me a sheet of paper at lunch. He didn't say anything. He just handed it to me and walked away. It read,
My friends, I do not know if you can hear me. I do not know if you could ever hear me or if I was imagining our encounter. But I hope you are out there. The machine is critically damaged. Perhaps with a great deal of work it could be repaired. But I doubt that I will have either the resources or the time necessary for such a task. I am deeply saddened that we could not speak further. There are so many questions I wanted to ask, so much more I wanted to learn about your world. But please know that in the brief time we were able to speak, you gave a tired man a reason to continue living. I know now that the madness that has gripped my country cannot be stopped. I tell my son to be strong. I tell him that our people have endured for thousands of years. I tell him that if we were strong enough to build the pyramids, we are strong enough to withstand a few grunting apes in jackboots. But he knows I am afraid too. We are marching forward into a nightmare that will take terrible toll on all of us. I do not know when it will end. The only thing I can cling to is the fact that somehow our world will lead to yours. I think of your world and I feel something I haven't felt in many years. An emotion almost unknown to the people in my time. I feel hope. For in a world such as yours, a world of such wondrous invention and progress, what use could there be for war? What reason for hunger? What tolerance for injustice? I know in my heart that you have solved the problems that have plagued our species and created a world of enduring peace and unity. I do not know how such a world could spring from the darkness that is enveloping this continent, but I hope that the future is as beautiful as you described it. I hope you have built the world that we could not. I hope you have learned from our mistakes. I hope you treat each other with the dignity and respect that is the birthright of all humanity. I hope you have forgotten the word for hate. I hope that things are different. Goodbye, my friends. From the shadows. Dr. Albert Bachmann. Frankfurt, Germany. November 12th, 1938.
A prank. That's all this was. I don't even know why I'm posting this. There's no way this is actually some sci-fi miracle. This was obviously just someone with too much time on their hands, playing a big joke on us. He's probably listening to the recordings and laughing at us right now. It has to be just a prank, but I still keep the radio on at night. I switch it on as I'm lying in bed, and sometimes when I'm starting to drift off, I think I hear a distant voice calling out in the dark, a voice from the shadows, tiny and frail, yet full of hope. And I sit up in bed and listen. I listen for a sound, a word, anything. But I never hear more, just my mind playing tricks on me. I don't sleep much anymore. It's probably because I drink too much soda, right?
There's always a reason to be afraid.